My name is Marvin Bowser, Marvin Bowser.
For a little background, could you tell me briefly about yourself and how long you've lived or been involved in the Hillcrest community? And you can also include any involvement you may have had with the Hillcrest Community Civic Association.
Okay. I'm a native Washingtonian, grew up in the North Michigan Park neighborhood in Ward 5. Went to DeMatha High School, undergraduate at American, commissioned in the Air Force from there, 10 years in the Air Force, spent 4 years in Germany, 6 years here in the Pentagon before I got out, and I've been working for the Navy as a civilian, and now I'm a government contractor. I've been at Hillcrest since 1997. I've been on the active in the Hillcrest Civic Association since then. I've been on the board, I believe, 10 years, something like that. First job on the board was the garden tour, and I chaired that for 6 or 7 years. And I've been active on the committee since then. I've been first vice president of the Hillcrest Community Civic Association for the last 4 years.
So as you may know, this oral history project is a continuation of the 20th anniversary celebration of the Hillcrest Community Civic Association. In thinking about your neighborhood, will you define it as a strong DC neighborhood? Tell me why, and also explain what is your definition of a strong DC neighborhood.
It's absolutely a strong DC neighborhood, and my first indication of that, other than it's always been a beautiful place to live, and that's the first indication that people care about their properties and take care of their neighborhood. But right after we moved here, someone knocked on my door and introduced herself and told her what organizations I needed to join and what I needed to do here in Hillcrest. Since then, I've gotten to know a lot of wonderful people and learn more about the history of their lives here, having raised families and still live here in their neighborhood. And it's absolutely a neighborhood where people, like the neighbor part of the neighborhood, is alive and well here.
So what is your opinion of the Hillcrest Community Civic Association and its role in creating a strong DC neighborhood? How do you think it has engaged the residents of the community to encourage active involvement and participation? And to what extent do you think the HCCA has sufficiently engaged the residents in other parts of the city? Think internal and external interactions long term in the past 10 years or how long you've been here.
We could talk all afternoon about any part of that question. Oh my goodness. For the 20th anniversary, I've worked on the committee, and I had the opportunity to put together a PowerPoint presentation that covered 20 years of history. So that I learned a lot again that I didn't know, and covering 20 years and with images is really interesting. So you can actually see the people who've been leaders in this community over the years. See some people come and go, but a lot of the same faces from 20 years ago are still here. Our founder of the Civic Association has passed now. And her name escapes me right now. Oh, that's awful.
Belva.
Belva Williams.
Simmons.
Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
Say it again.
Belva Simmons.
Belva Simmons, bless her heart. She was a tiny little woman, but with a big vision, and she saw that we were losing opportunities because we weren't organized, and organized the Civic Association. So it's been instrumental in keeping Hillcrest on the map so that downtown doesn't forget that we're over here. And over the years, we built up quite a political powerhouse that has and maintained this place as a wonderful place to live. We have partnerships with the Palisades Civic Association that across town. That is, we celebrated a 10-year anniversary a year or two ago, so it's 11 or 12 years. And actually had fun walking the Palisades parade this year as part of the Hillcrest contingent. We also have partnerships with Friends of Francis Gregory Library, the Friends of the Hillcrest Recreation Center. So there are other organizations that the Hillcrest Community Civic Association supports for the betterment of not only our community but for the city.
So in continuing in that vein, how effectively do you think the HCCA has worked with the Hillcrest community, and by extension the rest of Ward 7 and maybe the rest of the city, to garner goodwill, promote neighborliness, and maintain the wholesome community? And how effective has the various forms of communications and outreach proponents been effective, or is there room for improvement?
There's always room for improvement when you're working with people. I think that the association does a good job working within Hillcrest proper. With organizations, sometimes they do better or worse over the years. So, I think averaged out, this association does a really good job in this neighborhood. I think we don't do as well working across Ward 7. I think that we're very comfortable here in the southern part of the ward and don't do much in upper northeast. So that is one area I think where we could improve. And some of the things that we do well, some of those methods we should share. Like I think that the garden tour has a really good recipe that would work well in other parts of the ward.
So to what degree do you see the HCCA and the Hillcrest neighborhood as extensions of each other? In other words, how effective would one have been without the other in creating this strong DC neighborhood? And do you view them, Hillcrest and HCCA, as separate entities, or are they one and the same to you? When one does well, does it naturally bring along the next, or does success occur individually? And why do you see it whichever way you see it?
Well, certainly there's a symbiotic relationship between the larger community and the Civic Association. And certainly if the community is doing well, the association prospers, and vice versa. It would be, I guess the nirvana would be if we had the community really engaged with the association at times when there's not a crisis. So we see new faces when there's a burning issue. The association will attack the issue, resolve it, hopefully, and we'll resolve it pretty much in every case. And then we see faces go away. So it's actually, if we could keep the interest high, and then when there is an issue, it's even easier resolved because the association is more powerful when the numbers of membership are higher.
And the Hillcrest community neighborhood has been known for its civic-mindedness, neighborliness, caring and respect for the beauty of the environment. Is this something you agree with? And if so, why? And are there any other adjectives you might use to describe Hillcrest?
Neighborliness, friendliness, care for the environment. That captured it very well. I mean, we're blessed with these rolling hills, lots of greenery, lots of green space. Most of the residences have lots of green around them, and the variety of plants and trees that people keep in the way there, and lawns or landscape are big attributes of why this is an interesting neighborhood. We don't have the same house, door to door, blocks and blocks of the same house. We have the variety is neat, and we have flat areas, we have hilly areas, we have views in the distance. We have places like this where you capture the evening sun. It's just a lovely place, relaxing place to live. It really is a suburban setting, 10 minutes from downtown.
And could you offer any specific examples that will underscore the civic-mindedness and neighborliness of the residents? I know you had mentioned earlier the Palisades and Hillcrest relationship, neighbors through art. And do you have any other example that could underscore the relationships that we have here?
I'm struggling.
Well, since the first time
I guess you kind of asked me a leading question, so that gets me thinking off track. But a really good example of where we really pulled together as neighbors, where we haven't had to in a long time, was during the Snowmageddon experience. And your community really boiled down to a couple of houses because you can only go a couple of blocks because the snow was up to your knees. And we, as you know, there are a lot of we have a lot of senior citizens in the neighborhood, and that was a physical challenge. And in a number of cases, the wife was the one out there trying to do the shoveling, which was kind of nuts. So we had the opportunity to get out and help thy neighbor with thy shovel and thy strong back through that, and we shared food or whatever people needed to help, and push the cars and all that, and people, in some cases, people they wouldn't ask for help, so you just have to grab your shovel and go do it. And one of my neighbors' husband was snowbound somewhere else, and I didn't know, but had the opportunity to dig out their driveway, and they knocked on the door and gave me this beautiful orchid. It sounded, it was so lovely. So it's hard, it's hard to find people like that, or situate people responding to situations like that from the goodness of their heart, and it's just a wonderful thing.
Now, since the first time you've moved to this community in the 1990s, since 97, do you see a continuation of that civic-mindedness and neighborliness, or has it changed over time? Is it better? Is it worse? Do you have an opinion on the HCCA and helping with that continuation?
I think so. I came here in '97 from Capitol Hill, and a lot of people have moved here since then. Around that time, also came from Capitol Hill. Call us Capitol Hill refugees. And Capitol Hill is another neighborhood kind of place, and you deal more on a block-to-block basis down there. So I think people coming up have a neighborhood mindset, but then this Capitol Hill is very transient too. So it's like you don't meet a lot of people who've lived there for 40 years, and that's true. That statement is truer every day. There are very few long timers left in Capitol Hill. So, but with Hillcrest, with the established, I'll use the word society. There's I don't want to say entrance fees, but there's you kind of have to be here and engage and work with the association and work in your neighborhood for a while, and the more established community leaders and such will welcome you in, but you do kind of have to, I think, prove yourself, and that's not a bad thing.
So based on the length of time you've lived in Hillcrest, and based on your observations and interactions, what do you see as the 3 core elements that make for a strong neighborhood in the District of Columbia?
A care and respect for your neighborhood, your community. I think a care and respect for your people. And actually, I'll extend that, care and respect for yourself. Actually, it's probably that simple, because you just see the way, and my grandmother taught me this. Poor doesn't mean dirty. Mm-hmm. So you see people who don't have anything, but they don't have any self-respect for either, and that's a problem. So it starts there, and if you have those basic building blocks, you can, and people pull together, you can do wonderful things.
And is there anything else you can think of which highlights Hillcrest as a strong DC neighborhood, and anything that shows the HCCA as helping to facilitate that strength?
Well, other than everything I've said, so looking out from outside of Hillcrest back, you say Hillcrest across the city, people who've never been here know Hillcrest. And you say Hillcrest down in the Wilson Building, people that know where you're coming from. So there's a positive reputation, and that was built on not only that they're good people doing good things up here, but that we hold people accountable. We'll speak up. We're not shy about that. So Mayor Williams mentioned that during his remarks at our 20th anniversary dinner. And that staying on top of things, knowing how making it known that you're organized and that the community is taking a position on something, and that we're going to be satisfied and we'll hold you accountable, is very important to what's made Hillcrest, I think the Hillcrest Civic Association, a great organization. Oh, the other thing is, aside from holding people accountable, we also say thank you. We'll recognize when that's been done. So we're looking for the win-win. So everybody wins, and that's a better way to do business.